Welcome back to another episode of Raven Conversations. I'm Joe Seamandel, State Public Affairs Officer for the Washington National Guard. And today I'm joined by Master Sergeant Ben McNelley, who is kind of unique. We always talk about the Guard story, traditional soldiers being, full-time somewhere else and part-time in the Guard. Your story is a little different. You're full-time here, and you part-time substitute teach. Welcome to the show, and take it away. We'll have you introduce yourself to the crowd.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So, I'm Master Sergeant Ben McNelley. I just go Ben McNelley is fine. I'm full-time in the National Guard. I was originally started out in the Marine Corps in the year 1997, so that was a little while ago, and I was in the Marines, Marine Reconnaissance, until 2003. Then I came over to the National Guard and went Special Forces, and was in Special Forces to about 2017. And then now I work for JFHQ. I went to Montana State University, ran cross country there. When I graduated, I did some substitute teaching originally. We can talk about that. That's pretty cool. And then I just graduated with my master's from University of Massachusetts. So that's pretty excited about that. So lifelong learning. It's a great segue to what we're talking about. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I think my first question is, and we've known each other for a while, and every time you come to me and you're like really excited about it, how did you get into substitute teaching?
Okay, so originally it's actually pretty funny. So I had been, regular college student, just doing a college job, and what I did was before and after school program for the school district. And I had done that off and on. And when I graduated, literally it was the first day of school for the year, I showed up for before and after school. And they had already known me. The district and the secretaries at the school knew me, and they're like, "Hey, didn't you just graduate?" And, well, yes, I have. And they're like, "Well, you're subbing now." And literally that day, I was in a classroom subbing, so it was completely by accident. And I started teaching, and I actually taught at the time long term for months at a time. So it was
basically you just showed up and they threw you in a classroom.
Just showed up one day, and there I was.
How was that first day?
It was pretty amazing. It was scary. I was very young at the time, but just by chance, my 5th grade teacher was the other kindergarten teacher, and I taught kindergarten, which was wild, being a reconnaissance Marine. But I went in there, and I was nervous. I was scared, and the teacher reassured me that I was going to do fine, and I actually did great. The kids loved it. We read a book and played with Legos. It was a great time.
So for those watching, and if you know Ben, he's a pretty energetic guy. He's kind of the guy, he's coming. His voice goes from 0 to, I'm going to say 60 in about 3 seconds. So how do you tame that down in the classroom? Yes.
So I think everybody in the National Guard knows I'm pretty passionate about things, and I'm really excited to be in the Guard and just really excited to be around soldiers and do what we do. And I still bring that passion into the classroom. But it's not about me in there. It's about letting the kids be passionate and transmitting that passion to their learning. So I just look at it through their perspective, and how do I make them want to learn, and how do I make it a successful day? And that's my focus. So I still have the exuberance and the passion, but I gear it towards how do I make sure their day is successful. Yeah. So yeah.
So how do you take those lessons you've learned in the Guard over your entire military
career,
and you bring those into a classroom?
Yes. So that's so vital, and I think it really benefits the kids and the school districts, because having working professionals be a substitute teacher is something that school districts don't always have. And teachers are amazing. And when you go to the schools, it really restores my faith in humanity to see how amazing these teachers are. But as working professionals, we bring credibility to what they're trying to teach. So when I'm teaching math to high school kids, for example, I get to talk about math. I use math every day, and nobody sees a soldier as someone who's a mathematician or anything like that. But I get to share, I use math. I use math as a jump master. When I'm jumping out of aircraft, I have to do very critical calculations to make sure everybody gets out safely. And kids see that. And they think oh, okay, I'm going to be applying this after I get out of school. And that's so important, and it really lends credence to what the teachers are trying to do. Mm-hmm. And so there.
So on the reverse side, how has teaching helped you in the Guard?
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's the really important question. And I think as much as teachers get out of it, and I want to go back to that because as much as the kids get out of me teaching, even things like, another example is emotional intelligence. They actually learn that in school now. And the districts teach kids to run towards challenges, healthy struggle, and to work through it, which is something we never had in school, right? And as military, we get to talk about that as well, because we face challenges every day, and it's something we encourage. So that's another great thing that we give to the school district. But what I get out of it as a professional, as a full-time professional in the National Guard, is huge. And if I was the sprint, drag, carry king for a day, I would have all of the senior leaders go sub or just have that experience, because it gives, when you and I joined the military I joined in 1997. So my last high school experience was in the 90s. Things have changed. But when we see young soldiers today, we still think of ourselves 20 years ago, right? As leaders, to see what this generation is doing and how they're navigating life and the experiences they have allow us to better understand our soldiers, which is probably the most important, not probably, it is the most important thing we do as leaders in the Guard, especially as senior leaders. I mean, think about it. Last time I taught high school, before I started subbing again, me as the instructor, me as a student, I was the depository of information. As a teacher, I stood in front of the class and I gave a lecture. And the kids had maybe one book. And whatever I said was true because I was the authority. And the kids just take it as gospel, right? And then we go to basic, you and I, and the drill instructors is the same thing. And no emotional intelligence was taught when we went to school, right? So we go to basic. The drill instructor's yelling and telling us to do things. Well, he must be a leader because he's telling us to do things. So there's the authority, and he's yelling. So that's a great example of leadership back in the 90s. And try to do that with a young person coming into the military today. And let's go to what they're doing in school now. Completely different. So everything's online. And as a teacher, I'm no longer the keeper of knowledge. I'm no longer the dispensary of anything. Everything's at their fingertips. All the knowledge they could ever want is at their fingertips. It's on their computer. So now, instead of a teacher lecturing students, he says something like, hey, I want you to argue why or why not freedom of speech is important in a healthy democracy. And using good sources, defend your argument, credible sources. Yeah. And here's some good resources, but it's up to you. You're a self-driven learner. So these kids are self-driven, critical thinkers who are given a task to defend an argument and why, using credible sources, right?
Fascinating.
It is.
Yeah. So it's way different. I mean, it's been 22 years for me.
Yes, I think 20.
So it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
The way we learned when we were kids is completely different. So it sounds like it's a completely amazing, opportunity. I always talk with you about it. You're always very passionate and excited about it, and I appreciate you sharing that passion. If there's a message you wanted to say to a guardsman who, whether they're full-time, part-time, are like thinking, hey, I could be a substitute teacher, or I could go out and help kids with, something, coaching, anything. What's that message you want to tell them?
Do it, because we have so much to provide, and we have so much that we can get back out of it. Especially I know I talk to a lot of people, and we do have a lot of guardsmen that are signing up to sub. And that's great. We just, for the school district alone that I work at in the last 8 months, myself and 2 other people have signed up to substitute teach. But do it. It's a great, for younger leaders and younger guardsmen, it's a great opportunity to practice those leadership skills, practice getting in front of a group of people, to go into an environment that is not necessarily under your control. Because when you go sub, the teacher could be sick. You might not have a lesson plan. You may or may not. The technology may or may not work. And how do you make it a successful day for the kids? And all of us as guardsmen, as professionals, we have something to give. And also, as guardsmen, we get a lot out of it. So it's a great experience. No,
that's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that story. Yeah. If you like this kind of content, let us know. Hit like, subscribe if you want to watch more. And thanks for joining us for another episode of Raven Conversations. And I appreciate it.
There you go.